All right, we are going to get started. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to our first Showhead Ear Associates Listen and Learn virtual educational seminar. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that Emma and I both have been fully vaccinated for 2 months, so we are going to do this presentation without masks, just so it's a little easier for you to hear and understand us, and we'll explain why through this presentation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gina Patskowski. I am one of the audiologists here at Showhead Ear Associates. I have been here for almost 6 years, and I work primarily out of the Newport Beach office. And presenting with me today is Emma Movick, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Emma Movick, and I am one of the audiology externs here at Showhead Ear Associates. I've been here for the past year, finishing up my doctorate program, and I'm just really excited to be here and sharing with Gina.
All right, so the past 13 months have been really difficult for many people for many reasons. Something that we have noticed that patients have come in and discussed with us is how difficult it has been to communicate during this time with the introductions of masks and social distancing. Um, I know that I personally am feeling more hopeful with more widespread vaccination. However, masks will probably still be around for the foreseeable future. So during this presentation, we are going to discuss with you some communication difficulties that you may have experienced with the introductions of masks and social distancing. We're going to provide you with some tools and different communication strategies to be able to more effectively communicate during this time. And then we'll talk about some ways in which we at Showhead Ear Associates can help you during this time as well.
Okay, and before we start going over different strategies, I just wanted to let you all know in case you are concerned about how this is working. So we're going to be giving the presentation and then answering any questions that you have throughout the presentation at the end. So all that we ask is that you have yourself muted. And if you have any questions that come up during our presentation, go ahead and use the Q&A chat box to write your question. And we have somebody that is writing them down, and we will address all questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so to get started, we couldn't have a full presentation about masks without giving the proper mask etiquette and how to properly wear them. This is really just to make sure that you are keeping yourself as well as those around you protected. So this fun graphic just shows the do's and don'ts of mask wearing. You want to make sure that the mask is fitted to your face and is covering your entire nose, mouth, chin, and cheek area. It's just really important to get a nice fitting mask as well.
All right, so a little bit about communicating with a face mask and some increased difficulties that can come with that. So just quickly, some CDC guidelines, which we know are changing all the time, but you want to make sure you're keeping a distance of 6 feet between you and someone else and wearing your face mask when you're in public settings. So even though the guidelines have been changing in terms of vaccinations, it's still important that when you're in public settings, at events, gatherings, businesses, doctor's offices, that you are still wearing your mask. So this is a recent study that looked at how wearing a face mask affects the volume of speech. So we recorded some sentences for you so that you can really understand what it does and the volume reduction that comes with wearing masks. So this is typical conversational speech at 60 dBA. Oops, sorry. I'll let Emma do it. 1 second, sorry. Okay.
Hey, can you grab the eggs? It's right next to the milk.
And then that same sentence when someone is 6 feet away.
Hey, can you grab the eggs? It's right next to the milk.
And that's with a cotton face mask. And then this is someone that is 6 feet away. I'm sorry, this next one is with the cotton face mask.
Hey, can you grab the eggs? It's right next to the milk.
And then finally, this is when someone is 6 feet away wearing a KN95 face mask.
Hey, can you grab the eggs? It's right next to the milk.
So you can kind of hear that it was more difficult to understand the speech as the person got further away and had more face protection, wearing a more protective face mask. The face masks reduce the volume of the high pitch sounds. We know that those high pitch sounds or high frequency sounds are the ones that are really important for clarity of speech. And when that's diminished, it's going to be more difficult to communicate and understand what someone's saying.
Okay, so then there has been research done on how different face masks differ the speech that you are hearing. So just to orient you to what this graph is showing, it's showing the normal speech range with different masks on at varying pitches. So from left to right on that graph, we have pitch going from very low to very high pitch. Kind of how a piano is laid out. On the left side, we have more of the bass sounds, and as we move to the right, we get into those more treble sounds. So that green line is showing the average speech volume for a person without a mask on. And then the lines below it, the different colored ones, are different masks and how that mask affects the volume of speech for different pitches. So we can see that every mask is below the green line, and the greater the distance, the more reduction in speech, especially in those higher pitches. We're noticing quite a severe amount of degradation in the speech volume. And so then another study by Toscano and Toscano wanted to see how masks cause more effects of hearing difficulties when we get into noisy environments. We're not always in a perfectly quiet environment, and we want to see what the effects are. So they wanted to look at 4 different masks and how this varies the speech. And so they looked at the effects of a KN95 mask in that top left box. They wanted to look at the surgical mask in the top right, and then 2 different kinds of cloth masks, the 2 bottom ones, a fitted one and one that has more of a pleated design. So in the first situation, they added noise, but still made it so that the speech is very clear to understand through the noise. And we can see there's not much difference between each of those masks. So each bar represents a different face mask. And most of them are around the 100%, 80% range of understanding what was said when the speaker was wearing this mask. What differs is when we get into a much noisier environment, which is shown on these left sides, that the degradation in the speech intelligibility becomes much greater. So with all masks, we're seeing quite the degradation of speech. The person that was listening to these sound samples could only understand 50% or less with all of these face masks. They saw that the fitted cloth mask tends to cause the most reduction in speech intelligibility, just because it is very close to the face, to the mouth. But with this being said, 50% of speech understanding is not great. I personally would not listen to a conversation if I was only getting 50% of what is said. So what this is showing is that we are noticing a big effect of face masks, and this is due to different factors such as talker differences as well as the noise levels. Another thing is that all masks cause the loss of the visual information. You're no longer able to see the mouth and what is being said, as well as the visual cues there. So, what this study was looking at was for normal hearing participants, but we can only assume that for individuals with hearing loss, these difficulties are a lot greater. And so we really want to address that throughout this talk.
All right, so I'm going to move on to social isolation and impacts of social isolation during this time. Now more than ever, we understand how important it is to be with other people, to communicate with other people, to have them there in person. We kind of took it for granted. So we want to provide you with some creative ways to socialize during the pandemic. And before I get started, I just want to put this quick message out there. If you or someone you know needs help at this time, here are some phone numbers that you can contact 24/7, 365 days a year. I'll leave that up for just a second. So again, we've had to figure out creative ways in which we can connect during this time when in-person social interaction isn't really recommended. For example, Zoom, what we're using now. I personally hadn't heard of Zoom until the pandemic started, but since then I've been to a Zoom wedding, a Zoom baby shower. I hosted my son's first birthday on Zoom. So it's really a nice way to be able to, we've had family dinners over Zoom with people in different states. It's a really nice way to connect with people and have some social interaction safely. Also FaceTime, something that we use all the time. And now, which we'll talk about a little bit later, a lot of hearing aids can wirelessly connect to your iPad and your iPhone. So you'll be able to see the person you're communicating with and hopefully hear them a little bit better with FaceTime. It's really made it a lot easier to connect. And of course, in Southern California, we have beautiful weather all the time. So being outside, going to parks, the beach, keeping your distance and safely being able to hang out and communicate and socialize with other people outdoors.
Okay, and so now we're going to talk about different communication strategies to help you out with the inclusion of a mask. And so to start out, here's a fun fact that 55% of overall communication is from nonverbal communication. This includes facial expressions and gestures. So we are not just relying on the speech and hearing, we are relying on a lot of other factors to understand what is being said. Now, with the addition of a mask, we are now covering up half of the face. The bottom half, the mouth, the cheeks are now covered. And so we really have to focus on the other features that can give us information in the speech that aren't going to be impacted by the masks. And this includes the eyebrows, the eyes, the upper cheeks, as well as other added body language. So I thought this was a graphic that would help to kind of drive the point home that the face mask does impact a lot of the facial gestures that we would normally rely on in order to understand exactly what the patient or the person is getting across. And so one part of this is showing that there is a lot that is blocked by the mask, but there are still those features on the top half of the face that really can help to understand what is being said. And then this is just a fun graphic to show possibly new gestures to add into your nonverbal dictionary. I, for one, will try and implement the namaste into my day-to-day conversations with the masks.
And then a little bit more about clear speech, especially if you have hearing loss or you've been noticing difficulty during this time. Here are some do's and don'ts about how to have more clear speech. Something that you do want to do to make your speech more clear is to increase the volume of your voice without shouting. You want to make sure that you speak slowly without over-articulating your words. And it's also really important that you face your communication partner so they can get as much of the visual cues as possible. And so the speech is also projected in their direction. Avoid turning your back or face while you're communicating with someone. And then what to do if there's a communication breakdown. So communication breakdown occurs when one or both communication partners are not understanding what's being said. So if someone doesn't hear you, you don't want to repeat what you said verbatim. And if you're that person listening, you that's not going to really help you. So instead, try and rephrase what was said. And if you are that person listening, you don't want to just say what when you didn't hear what was said. Give them more information. So tell them what you did hear. So, for example, if someone says, "What movie did you want to watch tonight?" But all you heard was "tonight," you'll say, "What did you ask me about tonight?" And then that person can rephrase what was said and it can help you fill in the blanks of that conversation. Um, and then environmental controls. So there's a lot that we can do to control the environment to help you communicate and hear the conversation better. So if you're in a noisy environment, try and find a more quiet situation. So maybe if you're at a wedding or with a group of people, you can move outside or step to the lobby to so it's quieter and it's easier to understand. And try and find an area with non-reflective surfaces. It's really nice and it looks good to have these high ceilings and hardwood floors, but that doesn't do any favors to sound. So if you can, try find somewhere that's carpeted or there's more furniture around. And then lighting. So with lighting, it's easier to see those visual, nonverbal cues, to see how someone's mouth is moving, to see their facial gestures, their hand motions, to help really understand and put those pieces together. So, one reason we're bringing this up is that with more vaccinations, we're hoping that we're getting closer to a more normal world, and that we will be out to restaurants more and gathering with family and friends more and going to weddings. So these are just some tools, even without masks, to help you communicate in some of these more difficult environments.
Okay, we also want to talk about how hearing aids can help you during this time and how different technology can really help with the addition of the masks. So there's some common misconceptions that are around about hearing aids. One being that they are huge and visible, can spot them from a mile away. They have very tiny buttons that needed to be controlled, and that they are easy to lose. They don't help out in noisy situations. They can be too difficult to use, and they make all sounds too loud. They just amplify everything in the environment. So we're here to debunk these misconceptions. So hearing aids come in all shapes and sizes. We work with very tiny as well as larger ones. We really just want to make sure we're getting something that is properly fit for your specific hearing loss, as well as making sure they stay in place and that you're comfortable with them. The hearing aids are programmed to increase the volume of specific sounds where you're not hearing as well and help to reduce those unnecessary noises in the environment. They can be controlled via a mobile device now, so that reduces the tiny buttons that would have to be managed. There's also noise algorithms in current hearing aids to really help in those difficult environments. Hearing aids know that this tends to be the environment that is most difficult, so all manufacturers have been working towards getting the noisy environments to become comfortable to help with speech.
Yeah, so I would say the number one complaint that I see with patients with hearing loss is that they are having a hard time hearing when there's background noise. And like Emma just said, the hearing aid companies know that, and that has always been one of their biggest goals, is to help you hear in different environments, to help you understand speech when there's background noise. So the technology is always improving. Some of the newer hearing aids have multiple microphones that pick up sounds from different places and can decide which sounds are noise and which are speech to help you understand those conversations better. So this is just a little graphic to show about what noise reduction is in hearing aids. So you have your speech in blue, your background noise in pink, and together you can see it's really hard to pick out the speech over the noise. But when we turn on noise reduction, that hearing aid's working to really pull that speech over the noise. So that's what's going to be more prominent. And then sound quality. Um, Sound quality is really important. We're trying to make you hear as natural as possible. And so the hearing aids are going to be processing the sounds in your environment as fast as possible to not only help you hear better when there's noise, but to also make a more natural sound quality. So some of the newer hearing aids are sampling your environment tens of thousands of times per second, which really does add to the ability to make it sound more natural.
So I'll talk a little bit more about the wireless abilities that hearing aids have. So hearing aids can now connect directly to phones, and this is used so that you can treat the phone as a remote for the hearing aids. Raise the volume, changing the programs. A great thing is that it's easy to use, and if you have dexterity issues, it reduces that issue as now it's all controlled from the phone. So another thing about this is that some hearing aids can stream to your phone as well. So not only do they act as a remote control to change the volume and the programs, but you can also stream phone calls, audiobooks, podcasts, etc. to the hearing aids. And so it acts as a Bluetooth headset. And this works for iPhones as well as newer Androids. And so this is great because with COVID, we are concerned about germs. And so you're not worrying about having a phone on the side of your face. You can just hold it out and reduce that germ impact as well. And then another thing we want to talk about is if you're still having difficulties with the masks, your audiologist can make a additional program and could title it the mask program to help you when we're in those situations. What that program will essentially do is increase the overall volume to help with the reduction of volume of speech that we see from the masks, as well as give you a bit more of a high pitch boost, and that will help to make sounds not as muffled. And then also we can program the microphones to really focus on sounds right in front of you. Sometimes the microphones are picking up sounds all around, and we can create a program that has it focused so that you can just focus on the speaker right in front of you and reduce the sounds around. Another thing with masks that we have seen is the loss of hearing aids due to the mask. And so we just wanted to add this slide to reiterate that you want to be careful with the mask and hearing aids when you're taking it off. Instead of flinging the mask off, you want to make sure to pick it up and over to ensure that the hearing aid doesn't come with it. And also make sure that the hearing aid is still on after the removal of the mask. And if at all possible, keep the mask on until you're in a safe environment, such as your car or your home. That way, if it does come flying off with the mask, it can't go too far and there's no way that it will be run over by a car. Another great thing we are seeing is the use of different face masks to help with the hearing aids. So this is one brand out there, the universal mask. And instead of the loops that go behind the ears, it has two longer elastics. So it goes around the head. And so this ensures, one, your hearing aids aren't becoming tangled in the loops, as well as when you take off the mask, there's no risk for the hearing aids to come out. So this is a great option that we have been mentioning to patients, just to make sure we're not filing any more loss and damage claims for your lost hearing aids.
All right, so we're also going to talk about assistive listening devices. There are some devices available that can be used with your hearing aids to help you combat these difficult environments. So there's something called remote microphones. These have been around for a while. It's a really great way to help you hear better when there's background noise or when you're not getting the visual cues. So the microphone is wirelessly paired to your hearing aids, and then whoever you're communicating with wears it around their neck or clips it to their shirt. And it's a little microphone that picks up their voice and will wirelessly send it into your hearing aids. Again, so this way, if your hearing aids aren't picking up with everything around you, it's really good in restaurants or business meetings. It's a good way to get that voice right into your ears. And with the iPhone, and now that most of the hearing aids do connect up to the iPhone, there's a way to have a remote microphone without having a remote microphone. Your phone can become that microphone. So in your iPhone hearing aid settings, there's something at the bottom called Live Listen. And so when you turn that on, that is then the remote microphone. So if you're at a restaurant with one other person, you can turn that on, put it next to them on the table, and it will pick up their voice. The phone will pick up their voice and again, wirelessly send it into the hearing aids. If you're someone who's been noticing difficulty hearing and noise, but you don't yet have hearing aids, you can also do this live listen feature with AirPods to kind of get an idea of how that works.
Okay, so other phone tricks that aren't exactly iPhone, so for those Android listeners, this will also benefit you. There is an app called Live Caption, and it does exactly as the name says. You open it up and just speak directly into the phone, and then it will type out whatever you are saying. So, say you're in a very difficult environment, you can't hear even as much as you try, you can turn this on to help in those situations. Another feature on the iPhone is going into the Note app that we all have downloaded. And at the bottom right in that circle is a little microphone, and you can speak into the microphone and it will also caption what you are saying. I will say take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes the phone will think you said something completely different than what you had. So
Double
just,
check.
yeah. And then another assistive listening device that can help is the television adapter. What it does, every manufacturer has one. It connects to your hearing aids, and then you plug it into your TV. That way, the sound from the TV goes directly into the hearing aids. It doesn't have to travel past the living room where there could be dogs barking, other people talking. So it's again, a nice direct signal to really help if you're having difficulties with other noises in the environment.
And just a reminder, we're all in this together and we're all going to get through it. We are here for you to help you if you want to come in and make an appointment to talk about your hearing aids and how we can make them better, or talk about some assistive listening devices or even newer technology, or even how to wear your mask with your hearing aids. You can definitely call and schedule to make an appointment with one of our audiologists. And we will answer a few questions. And there's just some references from some of the studies that we cited during this presentation. We did get an email question from Kevin. And Kevin wants to know how one can effectively or practically apply the relevant exemption provided in California's masking guidance, especially within a public business or domain. So the exemption states that persons who are hearing impaired or communicating with a person who's hearing impaired, where the ability to see the mouth is essential for communication, meaning that if you are somewhere in a public place and you're having a hard time hearing someone, so maybe the clerk at a store, you can ask them to remove their mask if you are comfortable with it and if they're comfortable with it, so that you can have access to the visual cues and to see how their mouth is moving. A patient also brought in some masks that she bought for some of us called the Clear Communicator. They should make these more widely available, but it is a mask that is clear, so you can see how someone's mouth is moving. These are from a website called Safe and Clear, safe, the letter N, clear.com. And this is what the box of them looks like. And, you know, if you are having a hard time hearing, give these to people when you're out and about, or give it to your friends and family so that you have more access to those visual cues. I think we have a couple more questions. Okay, there was a slide that someone wanted us to go back to. Sorry,
No quick way to get through it.
We're getting there.
We're almost there.
Almost there, almost there. Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to leave that one up. Okay, how to fix your iPhone to use it in restaurants. So it really depends on if your hearing aids are connected to your phone. But if you do have hearing aids that are connected to your iPhone and you know that, then what you do is either, depending on what phone model you have, you'll press that round home button on the bottom, or the button on the side 3 times as fast as you can. So 1, 2, 3. Then you'll see your hearing aids brought up. And then I can always come back to this, but I'm gonna go down to back to the iPhone. Almost there. So when you get to the control screen to control your hearing aids, down here on the bottom it says live listen. That's defaulted off. When you tap that, it takes a second to realize you're tapping it. So tap it, wait about 3 seconds, and then it'll turn on. And that's how that will turn your iPhone into a remote microphone.
And then
answer that.
going back to that psychiatric number, what it does is just if anyone is having a difficult time with the social isolation, anything related to COVID, they can call that number and receive help. So it's just there in case anyone feels they need to call it, or give it to a friend, family member that you feel could use the number.
I answer the Android question. So another question we got was for Android users, how can you stream calls to your hearing aids?
So with an Android, it really depends on the specific hearing aids you have. Some Androids and hearing aids, they only have the option to do the remote control, so controlling the volume and the programs. With newer Androids and newer hearing aids, there is a way to connect them to the Bluetooth. That way you can do the streaming of the music, podcasts, audiobooks. So if you're not sure if your hearing aids can do this, you can always come in for an appointment and we can discuss what features your hearing aid has with the phone and possible ways to get around it.
Yeah, there are also accessories from the manufacturer that can be a Bluetooth device. So instead of going directly from the phone to the hearing aids, you can go from the phone to a Bluetooth device, from the Bluetooth device to your hearing aids. You just have to have that like clipped to your shirt or in your pocket for them to communicate. So if you want to make an appointment, we can look at what hearing aids you have in your phone and see if there's a way that we can get it so that you can stream into it. Let's make sure we got most of these. Okay, so there's a question about using the iPhone with the lyrics. So because lyric hearing aids, which are the ones that fit really deep into your ear and stay in your ear, those are not digital hearing aids. So they do not have any Bluetooth connectivity or ways to adjust them if you unfortunately just have to use your phone on speakerphone or hold it up to your ear, but there's no way to stream or use a remote microphone with the Lyric devices. Okay. I believe we got to all the questions. If there's anything else, you can always send us an email or make an appointment with one of us again. Give us a call. We're happy to talk to you about anything related to this or unrelated to this in regards to your hearing aids or any of the new technology. Okay. So I think we got to all those questions about how to use the iPhone in restaurants and how to stream for Android and the question about lyrics. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will be having more of these webinars, hopefully monthly, and we hope that you come back for those. And we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.